Chapter 2211 The Whole Nation. Zhang Yi's eyes became solemn. Could it be that he also has the power of faith? The power of faith is not a common ability used by extraordinary people. It is very demanding to obtain. It requires a large number of believers and a long period of sincere belief in someone in order to gather the power of all beings on him. But Zhang Yi clearly remembered that the 6 silver-armored generals said that there was no such thing as telekinesis in the Wulwan Empire. Because the disadvantages of telekinesis are so great, high-level civilizations almost never use this thing. Soon, Zhang Yi got the answer. He received a message from Liu Karen. Brother, the Wulwan Empire's energy shield suddenly disappeared. Zhang Yi was stunned for a moment. The Iron Curtain of the Sky of the Wulwan Empire is the most important defense network of the Wulwan Empire. It is an integrated offensive and defensive weapon. Not only is its defense extremely strong, but it can also fire laser cannons from all angles. Whether it is external or internal, it can attack without blind spots. In order to fight against this thing, Zhang Yi spared no expense and built 2 extra super battleships. If it weren't for the high-tech means of mechanical civilization, Zhang Yi would probably have to think of other ways and expend more energy to break through this first line of defense. Even if they entered the territory of the Wulwan Empire, they would lose a lot of troops due to this powerful defense network. But this thing actually disappeared? Liu Karen's tone was also a little surprised. Obviously, the energy of the 3 super battleships was not enough to completely destroy the Iron Curtain of the Sky. This was an accident. Combining with what Zheng Lu just said, an idea suddenly came to Zhang Yi's mind. Is Zheng Lu going to use all the energy of the Wulwan Empire, including the energy to maintain the Iron Curtain in the sky, to protect himself? That's right, Zheng Lu did just that. From the Iron Curtain Control Center in the center of the Empire, an extremely terrifying energy shot up into the sky, crossing a height of thousands of meters and heading straight for Zheng Lu. At this time, the entire empire became extremely chaotic. After losing the protection of the Iron Curtain of the Sky, the Huaxiu National Coalition forces became even more unscrupulous. The mechanical army rushed around, and without attacks from the sky, they wantonly destroyed the primitive mechanical war beasts of the Wulwan Empire. The staff in the energy hub were also stunned, but they had no way to deal with it. As the imperial military god and commander-in-chief of the 3 armies, Zheng Lu's status in the empire even surpassed that of Emperor Ci. He can directly command the energy center to gather all the energy for him to use at the most critical moment of the empire. This is the 4th line of defense of the Wulwan Empire. It can only be used when the Wulwan Empire is in danger of national destruction. The price to pay is that the entire Wulwan Empire will be completely exposed to the enemy. At the high-level meeting, CE and the ministers' faces became extremely ugly. It's not easy for lizard men to turn their skin white, but fading it is possible. The color in their faces was weak. Even the Grand Marshal, an important official, spoke slowly halfway and then shut up. The invincible Marshal Zheng Lu always dealt with any enemy with ease and had never been in such a mess. However, today, not only was he beaten naked and in a miserable state, he even had to call upon the energy of the Iron Curtain of the Sky. Ci's right hand quickly turned the ancient ring on his left hand, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged due to excessive tension. Everyone was staring at him, many of whom were core members of the royal family, including his brothers and uncles. Therefore, they also know the legend of the self-organizing system. Everyone's heart was in their throat. When facing death, how many people will not be afraid? It's okay for civilians. They are just living as the scraps and screws of society, and they won't lose anything if they die. At worst, it would just be some houses made of reinforced concrete. But these powerful people are different. They possess supreme power, and the most beautiful female lizard man can stand above thousands of people. So, they are afraid of death. Your Majesty, please don't worry, we haven't failed yet. The finance minister stood up nervously and urged CE loudly. With the energy of the energy hub, the Grand Marshal will become even more powerful. He will definitely be able to defeat the enemy. Yes, Your Majesty. Please trust our Grand Marshal and the soldiers fighting on the front lines to protect us. We still have more than 20 million subjects. They can become our strongest shield wall and buy us enough time." Amidst everyone's persuasion, Ce stopped turning the ring with his right hand. "Don't worry, I won't do that kind of thing unless it's absolutely necessary." Although he said this, his finger did not leave the ring. If it really comes to the last resort, he will give orders without hesitation. Surrender is not an option. Falling into the hands of an enemy of a different race would surely be worse than death. He vaguely remembered that the history of the Wulwan Empire recorded their several battles with foreign races. Sometimes they were invaded, and many times they attacked other races. After each victory, they would capture the survivors of those races. Some are stuffed into zoos for exhibition, some are left in laboratories for anatomical research, and some are directly raised as domestic animals because of their delicious meat. Because of this, they know only too well how foolish surrender would be. Those who are not of my race must have different hearts, and the only outcome is life or death. At this time, in the central urban area. Although the central urban area was not invaded, the flames of war, mechanical collisions, and the sounds of weapons bombardment could still be heard from all directions. The place also became extremely chaotic, with a large number of people in the central city fleeing and taking shelter in more central areas. The three-dimensional city has emergency shelters in the underground area, and most people bring their families with them to take shelter in large groups. And at some point, several human figures and a dog appeared on a quiet street. Yang Xinshin and her group sneaked into the central city area without any pressure. Their goal is to destroy the underground self-destruct system of the Wulwan Empire to prevent themselves from perishing together with them. It looks like we need to speed up. Professor Da Vinci glanced at Yang Xinshin and said coldly, "According to the current speed, the coalition forces will be able to attack the central area in 3 hours at most. By then, the Wulwan Empire is likely to detonate everything. We'd better be able to find its control system and dismantle it within 2 hours. It's very troublesome," Professor Da Vinci said seriously. "This system must have top-secret defenses and multiple layers of security. Even if we find some of the self-destruct nodes, it would be difficult to dismantle them all in a short period of time." Chapter 22, 12-Meter. After listening to Professor Da Vinci's analysis, Yang Xinshin smiled faintly. "Who said I'm going to dismantle those nodes one by one?" Professor Da Vinci narrowed his eyes. "So, what do you mean?" Yang Xinshin said, "A system that can destroy the entire Wulwan Empire can only be controlled by the person with the highest power. That is, the Emperor of the Wulwan Empire. Therefore, we only need to control him to resolve this trouble." She raised her head and looked at the clearly layered central city area. In the distance is the Imperial City. That extremely tall building complex is where the Imperial Palace is located. The Lizardman's Palace looks like a huge mountain to humans. I need you to help me get there, and then I'll be able to take control of the situation. And according to our intelligence, there is at least one bishop-level person here. She looked at Professor Da Vinci and Brian seriously. It will be enough if you two help me to restrain her. This job should have been done by Ho Tuesday. After all, there was no other bishop-level alien around Zhongyi. But the arrival of Da Vinci and Brian gave them a better choice. Because these two people's abilities are more suitable to deal with the Lizardman Bishop. Professor Da Vinci was silent for a moment, then reached out from inside his white coat and pulled out a pistol that looked a bit like a toy. "Well, now that we're here, we have to do something, right?" Brian's face was grumpy. He wasn't very interested in fighting. He preferred learning foreign languages. But the same thing goes since we are here. Let's finish the fight soon. I just want to go home and rest. There were 5 people in the group. In addition to the 2 of them and the dog, Yang Xinshin was accompanied by 2 powerful strangers. Nine Heaven's mysterious lady, Liang Yu, and the female warrior from the southwest region, Snow Methra Bam. All 5 of them are in an invisible state, and in this situation, it is difficult for anyone to notice their invasion. Yang Xinshin had already told them the battle plan for this operation, so there was nothing much to discuss, and everyone moved cautiously towards the palace. On the front battlefield, bad news kept coming. At the forefront of the battle are the lizardmen soldiers and mechanical war beasts of the Wulwan Empire, who are fighting against the Huashu Kingdom's alien coalition and mechanical legion. There was almost no suspense. The severely damaged lizardmen soldiers and the mechanical war beasts, whose technological level was far inferior to that of the mechanical legion, were defeated one after another. The combat loss ratio is as high as 1 to 20. The main reason is that those super-large mechanical life forms and large-scale war weapons are too terrifying. The disappearance of the Iron Curtain of long-range fire support in the sky was a heavy blow to the local troops. The sounds of explosions were heard everywhere, and ordinary armed spacecraft and drones could hardly play a big role. When they face super-large mechanical life forms, they are like a group of mosquitoes entangled around an elephant. However, the super-large mechanical life forms will not be so slow to deal with them, because the super-large mechanical life forms have been modified by Liu Karen and are covered with firing muzzles. Laser weapons can lock onto small aircraft and shoot them down directly. In addition, with the presence of Shaolai, a war-type alien in the Legion, the armed forces of the Mechanical Legion have been greatly strengthened. The Lizardmen army, leaving behind corpses scattered across the ground, continued to retreat. In less than a few hours, the battle line had been pushed forward by hundreds of kilometers. If we go further back, we will have to enter the streets and start fighting. Above the sky, a female lizard man with long gray hair watched all this and finally decided to take action after failing to contain herself. This is the deputy commander from the South City Military District, Meteor. She opened her arms, a dazzling white light burst out of her eyes, and her long gray hair was flying in the wind. Boom! The sky above the battlefield was suddenly covered with dark clouds and strong winds blew across the sky. The dark clouds grew bigger and bigger and formed a super-large cloud cluster with a scale of hundreds of kilometers. This terrifying astronomical phenomenon made both sides in the war unable to help but look up at the sky. The Lizardman troops were very surprised to see this scene. It's Lord Mithil. Lord Middle has taken action. If it was another silver-armored general who took action, they might not be so happy. However, Meteor is different. Her abilities can play a much greater role on the battlefield than other silver-armored generals. The human coalition also noticed the change in the celestial phenomena, and they all looked up. Soon, they saw an extremely terrifying scene. Although they were in a huge underground world, they still saw the terrifying celestial phenomenon of a typhoon. It was as if an extremely huge black gyroscope formed from the dark clouds above the sky and crashed towards the ground. Preliminary estimates show that the coverage area of the giant typhoon was dozens of kilometers. It fell from the sky in an instant and landed in the camp of the Huashu National Coalition forces. A large number of mechanical life forms were thrown directly into the air. They desperately activated their flame thrusters, trying to escape from the storm, but they could not escape at all. The huge typhoon enveloped thousands of mechanical life forms in an instant, and a large number of human soldiers could not withstand the strong wind pressure and were torn to pieces and died. The typhoon swept rapidly towards the direction of the human coalition forces, and its power was so powerful that it made people's hearts and livers break. The army of the Wulwan Empire shouted excitedly. It was Lord Miter who took action. She truly deserves to be called the goddess of war. This kind of occasion is perfect for her. Meteor's move actually reversed the situation on the battlefield. A black chariot-level mutant, especially a strategic mutant, has an extremely terrifying influence on the battlefield. The human coalition suffered heavy losses in an instant. A large number of aliens were killed, and many mechanical life forms were destroyed. But this phenomenon did not last, because soon, Meteor heard a huge dragon roar coming from the opposite sky. She opened her eyes slightly, and then she saw a giant dragon rushing down from the sky. When I looked closely, I found that it was not a real dragon, but a huge tornado. A dark and thick tornado rushed down with great force. Not just one, but more than a dozen tornadoes collided with a huge storm spiral caused by meteor. Boom. Huff, huff, huff. The impact of the storm caused strong winds to sweep across the surrounding battlefields and even affected the city not far away. Soon, all kinds of chaotic things could be seen. The ruins of buildings and lizard men were blown away like garbage bags. Stay with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.